spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. Nobody has more kinds of cars or more kinds of people. See them at the sign of the cat. By Goodyear, makers of the custom Steel Guard radial tire. And by State Farm Mutual. Almost anywhere you live, there's a State Farm agent nearby. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo. What's up, Joe Boo and the Funky Chicken? And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. It is Thursday, and we are coming down the home stretch to New Orleans, where it looks like Kellen Moore will be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Yes, very much true. And I've kind of avoided a lot of the Super Bowl talk and the watching and stuff because I'll be honest with you, to know that the Eagles are going to their fourth Super Bowl this century and knowing that my Cowboys haven't done anything, and with some of the things that I've said that have blown back up on me because I thought the Eagles were overrated. I literally said, and it was probably because I was in my heart as opposed to my head, not looking at it all rationally, that I just wanted the Eagles to be bad. I just did. You know, I said Saquon's overhyped because he always wears down by the end of the season, and I was so wrong. And if they win, I know that Eagle fans will descend upon me like a plague of locusts. And I'm not looking for that, forward to that this offseason. I just am not. I will be literally shamed. In the meantime, we have the Dallas Cowboys, which are the drama field. Yesterday, there was so many things that have happened and transpired where when things happen, at some point, the dust settles. Good Lord, it is coming down like crazy. The dust settles, and then you start to find out things that were going on. We had, like yesterday, Zach Martin, who seems excited about the change in coaching and the philosophy change, it seems like, of possibly running the football. He's basically got about 6 more weeks to go to really see how his ankle is, which coincides with free agency, and trying to decide if he wants to retire or come back as a Cowboy, or be a free agent. But he started talking about Mike McCarthy and how much he loves Mike McCarthy, but how he had felt that he kind of lost his edge, that something was not quite right, and the same as it had been before. Then we had Peyton Hendershot, who I don't think he was meaning to throw the Cowboys under the bus, but he's basically confirmed the same thing that everybody else has said, that when you go elsewhere, the focus is winning games. First and foremost, everything else is secondary. Whereas the Cowboys, it's the tours, it's the autograph signings, it's the media events, it's everything. And, oh, yeah, by the way, we do have to play football too. And that's not the first time we've heard things like that. We've heard that from, like, Cole Beasley before. We've heard that from, Jason Hatcher when he went to Washington stuff and things. And you understand when you're America's team and in the spotlight like they are, these are, in fact, true statements that there is a lot of things going on that other teams aren't dealing with. I mean, if you are the Texans, you're not getting the same love, even though you were in the playoffs. Even though you've got a phenom young quarterback who's doing incredible things. Just don't. The Cowboys, you're everywhere. You got Netflix specials and stuff. You've got, you just got so much. Now, we're beginning to get a little taste of some of the stuff that may be going on. Micah Parsons is finally opening it up and talking about it. He's actually talked with Matt Everfuss, and, he says he's got to build a relationship now with Shoddy and so on. But he's also kind of going through and saying things that, this new school player versus the old school player, that this is a reset. And it seems like he's kind of happy about this. And I want to remind you guys, go back in time to about this time last year when the team had the meltdown and we lost to the Green Bay Packers. And it's funny that we look back now and we're like, oh, well, we lost to the Green Bay Packers and how bad that was, as opposed to this whole season that just was ass. Hold on. I need to get something. Because it's been so long. Smells like a Cowboys win. As opposed to smelling like ass that the team has been. But back last year, let me take you back. There was D-Law. It's seeming like D-Law and maybe Bland were kind of thrown under the bus by Micah, because Micah went off and kind of said that, we can't make these mistakes, okay? We can't jump off sides, because I think D-Law jumped off side, and we can't get, these penalties, which I think it might have been Bland. I might be wrong on that. But somebody had an illegal contact or holding call in the secondary early on in the game, which kind of set the tone where it just kind of screwed us over. And Micah kind of put them on blast. And so this was Malik Hooker on with Keyshawn Johnson.
You're a veteran now and whatnot. Mm-hmm. How you feel about Micah having a podcast during the season?
Honestly, man, and this is me, I'm one of those guys, I'm not into that type of stuff. Some guys it works for, you see the Jason Kelce's and guys like that who are successful with the podcast as well as performing on the field and having success with it. So I don't have a problem with it. I feel like a lot of these guys, though, they just get on there sometimes and they start falling into the part of, just saying stuff that, for the clicks and, having people to come view and stuff like that. So, I don't have no problem with it. My thing would be, though, for Micah, my advice would be for Micah would be, just make sure we're all right, where we're and being where your feet are. Because if we're at work and, the run game's terrible, but you're doing a podcast every week and, the run game is terrible, then, what are you really caring about? Are you caring about the crowd that, is watching your podcast? Or are you caring about the success of our team and the Super Bowl that we're trying to reach?
Yeah. So you got that from Malik Hooker. Now, I will preface it this. See, this is one of those cases where the question kind of dictates the answer, where it's not like Malik Hooker had, said, I want to do a press conference and I'm going to be out here slamming Micah Parsons. The guy asked him a question. He answered it truthfully in things, and it was it came across like he was slamming Micah Parsons. And Micah responded kind of like this. This was Chat Sports.
This was a since-deleted tweet from Micah that said, "Just wish you said this to me, but instead on some podcast. And you got my number, family," adding Malik Hooker, "and you're my locker mate. You could have said this any day. And you do realize I shoot the podcast on our off day. And why are we talking about everyone's preparation and focus?" Micah's right about not making it public. It's also, I think, very ironic to raise issues with Micah Parsons' podcast while you are on a podcast, right? Kind of seems a little bit hypocritical. Also, it is ironic and hypocritical for Micah to say, "Hey, you should not say that's about me publicly," while by saying it publicly. We're kind of doing the same mistake twice, right?
Yeah. So you got all of that going on. And so you had the dynamic then of D-Law basically saying, we were tired. We were tired. And so then what you have to start thinking about this is, when Micah Parsons last night, I'm sorry it's kind of going all around circles, but I'm trying to set the table for some of the stuff that may be still going on right now, because we have players like Malik Hooker as well as D-Law, that D-Law doesn't have any guaranteed money. Malik Hooker seems like our defense is changing where he may not be a fit for this defense, that those two guys might be guys that are gone. And so you have Micah, first of all, kind of go through and talk about Dak's money. You know, he's also looking and saying, well, you know, he knows he needs to get paid too. And maybe he's having second thoughts about him saying, I should take it. I don't have to be the highest paid. But let's go and listen to the statement and try and figure out, are there more problems in the Dallas Cowboys in the locker room and with this team than we've been led on to believe?
You know, it's going to be tough now because every team is going, they're pretty much going all in. You know, they got, small QB bills. But at the end.
So, first of all, small QB bills. Yes, Dak is at 60. But you have Joe Burrow, who's at 55. You've got Trevor Lawrence, who's at 55. You've got, Hurts is at 52 and a half. Everybody is in the 50s. Are we literally saying that Dak being $5 million or $7 million higher than everybody else at the moment, because that's going to be definitely changing. He's not going to be the highest paid forever, and the Cowboys choose to front load his contract so it's not down the road, and that's what they have a tendency to do. They don't want to get stuck with all the dead money and so on. Are we to believe that that's the reason why we're not winning a Super Bowl and signing all these players? Because we literally had the lowest quarterback cap hit for 4 years, and we didn't do anything at that point. So now we're saying it's the problem. But be that as it may, I'm not sure that, why Micah brings that up, unless there's animosity with Dak Prescott too and his contract. Maybe there is.
At the end of the day, we got to be ready to prepare our butts off and game plan and actually get guys better. We need to develop these young guys, and that comes in on the players. Us players have to do better developing young guys, creating a winning culture. And honestly, I think it's good that we're kind of resetting. We're resetting when it comes to certain players and things so we could just focus on building the culture.
Honestly, I think it's better that we're resetting some of the players. We know he's talked about wanting Goldston back, and we know Osa and Digazua is one that he wants to come back. So we're looking at guys like D-Law, Hooker, Donovan Wilson, that probably won't be back on the defense.
Sure, I just think there was kind of a imbalance of players between the old school way and the youth way, and I think it is.
There's a problem between the old school, which you have to think D-Law is definitely the old school. Malik Hooker maybe is still part of that old school, versus him being the new school. New school being I do my podcast and everything else.
It gives leeway for guys like me to step in and kind of take charge in the league.
So it gives space for guys like me to step in and take charge. Well, Micah, it's going to be yours. It's going to be yours unless the Cowboys decide that they're going to trade you. Because here's the other dynamic that we had gotten with Sean and RJ at one point last year about this time was the Dallas Cowboys, somebody, anonymous person in the front office, were saying that they were getting tired of Micah Parsons' stick. Now, I don't know if that was, a message that was being sent across. And I kind of feel like there was the Micah Parsons to start the season where before the injury, and then the Micah Parsons after he came back. Because before the injury, he was doing his podcast the way he always would do it. He had Big Play Slay on it. And after we literally got mollywopped, it was kind of like he was yucking it up with Big Play Slay. Ha-ha, it was he, and it was funny, in the way they were going about it. And he had one sack in like 4 games. And so it was like, you weren't performing, you're doing your podcast. And this is kind of like what Malik Hooker had said. If you're yucking it up and we're not doing anything, it isn't a good look. And it wasn't. We all were like, Micah, just shut up. Just shut up. Now, after the injury, when he came back, it seemed like the podcast had changed tremendously. That it ended up being not having players from other teams and stuff on there. We did have the whole kind of dynamic where they kind of threw Dak under the bus, where they named their top 10 and Dak wasn't anywhere close on that. They named everybody and their sister but Dak. But other than that, it seemed like that had kind of evolved. Sometimes you're just having a conversation and you say something and it's the gotcha moment. We're only looking at 45 seconds of a clip. You don't know how the total tone and tenor of the interview went. And a lot of things are definitely directed so that it will be made to seem that it's more dramatic than others, taken out of context. Be that as it may, things are definitely changing. And the good thing, at least Micah Parsons says, he has had a conversation, of course, with Matt Eberflus, and that he has to spend time with Shadi to get a chance to get to know him and see where they're about. But change is afoot. Now, the question will be is, how much change? Are we going to do business as usual, where we got Stephen Jones, who typically, doesn't believe in free agents and things like that. He believes in our guys and won't do jack. Or will the Cowboys actually get bold and try to actually really get better? I'd love the idea of being able to go ahead and get a guy like Myles Garrett. I just don't think there's a snowball chance in hell that happens. But then again, drastic times calls for drastic measures. We as fans would just love to see the Cowboys seemingly trying to do something more than what they've done. And in some regard, I think the Cowboys need to try and win people back. So let's go to the tape and see what they're saying as far as Myles Garrett goes.
With that situation. Down in New Orleans to become the Saints head coach soon. What's going on with that situation?
Field, he is coaching on Sunday in the Super Bowl, in the Superdome, and is shaping up for Kellen Moore to stay in New Orleans as the Saints' next head coach. Now, the Saints are doing everything they can to obey the rules and make sure that they don't do anything illegal or that the Eagles could come after them on. But barring a change of heart, it is shaping up for Kellen Moore to be the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. The Saints will look to speak to him again next week to see if they can get a deal done. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Rams are in the market to trade Cooper Kupp. They informed him this week that they would look to trade him immediately. He then announced that news, and the Rams know how much money is left in his contract, and they're willing to do their part to try to help move him. If we think back to last offseason, Keenan Allen went for a 4th-round pick, and there are people around the league who believe it could be a similar situation with the Rams taking on some of that salary. There's a $7.5 million roster bonus due on the 5th day of the league year, so the Rams could chip in and obviously be a part of paying some of that. And also, we should just mention that the NFL just announced that it will play a regular season game in Australia in 2026, and the Rams will play in the first game in Melbourne, Australia.
Well, Adam, I have a message for, I guess that was to be management, leadership. We are all available. The three of us that are here today in Bristol are available to travel to Melbourne in 2026. We will start booking our flights accordingly. Shefty, we'll talk to you again in just a little bit. But time now for some new sound here on NFL Live is Myles Garrett, for now, Cleveland Browns defensive end. Talk to our own Mina Kimes today. Take a listen.
Someone who's in position to contend soon or right away. And I could come in and still play my brand of football. I don't want to have to change up my game too much, and I don't think they'd want to as coaching and my teammates. I think we can try to elevate each other, and I can take someone over the hump.
It's no secret that quarterback has been the issue in Cleveland. When you look ahead again to potential spots, is that something that's important to you? Go joining a team where the quarterback is set and ready to compete?
Absolutely. I mean, with any playoff team or any championship team, they're going to have a quarterback, a good quarterback, and you've seen some game managers go out there with a great defense and win it all. But if you want to consistently be at the top, you got to have a really good quarterback, and that's hopefully where I'd find myself.
You can catch the entirety of this interview over on Mina's YouTube channel at 5 Eastern today. But Shefty, what more can you add on this situation that you reported on a couple of days ago?
Well, here's the situation. Myles Garrett has told the Cleveland Browns that he would like a trade. He's gone public with that demand. Now the question is, what do the Cleveland Browns do with that information? They have been very leery of trading him. They have been public in their stance that they do not want to trade him, that they wouldn't take 2 first-round picks to trade him. And so the question becomes is, how dug in is Myles Garrett? How far is he willing to take this? Because right now the Browns are not of the mindset to move on from arguably the best defensive player in football, no matter how much he wants to move on. We've seen other players who have demanded trades, Lamar Jackson, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk in recent years, only to wind up staying with their respective teams. Now, those players wanted new contracts, and this is not contract driven. This is about Myles Garrett wanting to play for what he believes to be a contender, which the Browns have not been. So it will be up to these two sides to try to figure out a solution that is not so simple to figure out right now, and it looks like it could go on for quite some time because he wants that trade. The Browns don't want to trade him. Each side is dug in at this point in time, and we'll see how it winds up playing out in the weeks to come.
Well, for those of you that think the NFL offseason begins on Monday, you are gravely mistaken, as there is no offseason in the NFL, especially when you are the man who creates the news like Adam Schefter. Hawk, let's dive into the situation a little bit more. Yeah. What do you think about what you heard from Myles Garrett? Obviously, we'll hear a whole lot more at 5 Eastern on Mina's show.
Of course. I mean, you know what level of player Myles Garrett is. And for someone who has done everything in his power to make the Browns a winner, he's almost 30 years old. He is routinely the best defensive player in the NFL. It's the one thing that's always going to be missing from his resume if he doesn't get close to a Super Bowl. For me, it sounds like that more than anything, he wants a plan. If it is with the Cleveland Browns, like there has to be a detailed plan to get him out of the transfer portal, which I don't know if they're going to have for where he's at in his career because, like I said, he's one of the best defensive players of the last decade, and he probably still doesn't get talked about enough and doesn't get as much attention as his play deserves.
And it's because he's on a bad team. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it ends up working. And so, listen, if it's not about money, which is obviously what Adam's talking about, it not being about money, like he's a guy that's already made $125 million playing football, right? Like he's going to make a lot of money over the next 2 years under the current contract. So if it really is about like, look, I'm just unhappy here because I don't think we're going to be good. You heard him talk about the quarterback position for the team he's currently on. Like at some point, and he's always been, I think, a good teammate, a good guy in the locker room, a good leader for the team. So like they haven't experienced an unhappy Myles Garrett there in Cleveland before. But if he decides to go that route, like that might be too much for the team to absorb. So their posture may be, hey, look, we don't want to move him. But like at some point when you have a guy that's always been a good guy that now all of a sudden is like, look, I don't want to be here. I'm unhappy. Like get me out of here. Like you kind of are forced at that point to do something with him.
Well, we're a little over 12 weeks away from the NFL draft. Not that I'm counting, but that certainly could be a deadline that has at least some bearing for a player that would command a lot in terms.
Definitely would. Now, one more thing before we get out of here. Here's an interesting story that was out yesterday, and this was basically chances ranking non-NFL teams, playoff teams, most likely to make the Super Bowl next season. And they broke it down in categories. There's the no chance in hell crew, which is starting out with the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns at 17, the New York Giants, the Raiders, Indianapolis Colts, New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers, and New England Patriots. They're basically saying these teams have no chance in hell. Extreme long shots, okay? Number 10, Seattle Seahawks, Atlanta Falcons, Jacksonville Jaguars, New York Jets, Arizona Cardinals. Excuse me. Choking on this. Kind of like my Cowboys. And then there's a path where they have 5 teams. Chicago Bears. Cobb Williams will need to take a big step forward, but they possibly contending with this talent and support. The trajectory is promising here. Let's not forget they have 3 of the top 45 picks and more salary cap space than all but 4 teams. So they're saying they got a chance to really turn around. Miami Dolphins, they might be headed in the opposite direction of Chicago, but Tua and Tyreek Hill remain a fairly talented roster. This is a top 10 scoring defense in 24. We'll see if they can hold it together and stay healthy in 25. Dallas Cowboys at number 3. A healthy Dak Prescott gives them a chance, and it's possible they'll be rejuvenated at the onset post-Mike McCarthy era. When healthy, there's a better way than they're way better than 7-10. Okay, San Francisco. They were in the Super Bowl a year ago, and then injuries blew up in their 24 campaign. Seems like an aberration. More likely 5 teams have better Super Bowl odds than the Niners. And, of course, Cincinnati. The defense needs work, but I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase give the team slightly better ceiling than the 49ers. They're due to have a huge bounce-back season. So, at least they're saying Cowboys got a chance to turn this shit around. Better odds than 15 other teams. So there's that. Alrighty, it's just another drama-filled day in Cowboys land. And as always, I appreciate you. Peace out.